10 days, 10 days. And we still have to distribute, how many more? 21. 21 more sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're only 3,400 rands for a set, which is a giveaway. You should take a couple. And at least I can offer, well, you can pay it over 3 months or 6 months. Yeah, no extra. But at least I can make an offer for what it's worth. Anyone who takes a set today, I'll sign, maybe not all of them, I mean the whole set, but at least the first volume or so. And anyone who takes a set today, I'll give a garland. So please take a set today or 2. Give one to friends as an early Christmas present. But sure, it's such an amazing thing, Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, anyway, thank you. But bear that in mind, please. And then it will be, if you take a set today, it will be the devotees will install it for you at your home. Sure, that's amazing. Okay, Hare Krishna. Give him the micro. Oh, you got one. Okay, okay.
Tiyaratavadava Punjabihari Tiyaratavadava Punjabihari Kobichana-vallabha Krivadanari Yashodadadada Brajanjadada Achada Yamuratina Vanashari Tiyaratavadava Punjabihari Kobichana-vallabha Krivadanari Yashodadadada Brajanjadada Achada Yashodadadada Brajanjadada Achada Yamuratina Vanashari Tiyaratavadava Punjabihari Jana Baba Grivarari. Yashoda Tada Braja Jada Jada. Yabuda Tira Vadasari. Yamuna Tira Vadasari. Yamuna Tira Vadasari. Yamuna Dira Varachari.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Pranamahang Mr. Periprajak Charis Tadasasi Samad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki. Shri Nitai Gora Sundar ki. Sankirtan Yagya ki. Transcendental book distribution ki. Gopremanande. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, devotees. How nice to be here with you all. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is happy in Krishna consciousness. Yes, very good. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, devotees and friends, today we are continuing with our, what we call an overview. In this case, an overview of Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, second to last chapter in Bhagavad Gita. And it's such a nice thing to do. And my congratulations to the management, Prabhanu Prabhu and company for organizing this, because, you know, Bhagavad Gita is our foundational scripture, basically, with Srimad Bhagavatam. But the thing is, Bhagavad Gita is you know, it's a lot smaller. It's only 700 verses, and it's only about 1,000 pages. Just a small book. Anyway, but oftentimes people or even devotees find it a bit of a challenge to read the whole Bhagavad Gita. So, yeah, because it's a little complicated. Bhagavad Gita is a little complicated. Krishna's discussing different topics here and there in different places through Bhagavad Gita. And you can get a little sort of entangled and caught up. He's discussing this, then he's discussing that, and then something else. So anyway, it's great, it's wonderful that we're doing this overview. I think every week another chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yes, so today it's chapter 17. And chapter 17 is titled The Divisions of Faith. Very interesting subject. How, in very simple terms, how people are prone to have faith in different things. Different things. You can say different types of religions. Well, that's there. But even just different types of foods. That's actually going to be discussed. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And different types of practices, religious practices I mentioned, all in terms of the modes of material nature which the people, the individual, is under. There are three modes of material nature. Those of you who have been following this program every Sunday, and I hope, as many of you as possible have been like for each Sunday, every Sunday, so you get the whole flow of it all. Right, so you would know, if you've been following it, you'd know that chapter 14 is specifically, the whole chapter is focusing on the modes of material nature which influence us all. And the first mode, let's start on the highest level because it's nice, it's positive, rather than the lowest level, which is a bit negative. So the highest level is a mode in English called the mode of goodness. In Sanskrit, sattva, sattva gun. Sattva gun basically means the mode of goodness. Yeah, a person in the mode of goodness, for example, is interested generally in healthy living. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki Jai. A person in the mode of goodness is interested in healthy living and honesty. Honesty, very important characteristic, important quality to have, to not be a cheater and a liar. Yeah. So, person in the mode of goodness. Well, the term kind of conveys the idea that they're peaceful. They're generally, just by nature, more peaceful. Not just when things are going their way, but any time, even when things are not going their way, they can still remain peaceful and not get all sort of stressed and anxious and hectic. These are qualities of people in the mode of goodness. And generally, they are more attracted to certain types of religious activities. Anyway, we're going to read about that shortly. So let's get into it. So first thing I'll mention is, first thing I'll do is chant a couple of prayers, actually. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyacha Deshatarane. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. We offer our respects to all the devotees. But now, first thing, as far as the chapter goes, I'll read a sort of like a paragraph, a few sentences. Srila Prabhupada, in his purport to the last verse in this chapter 17, he sums up what the chapter is about. Let me just read it. In the conditioned state, people are attracted to worshipping demigods, ghosts, or yakshas like Kuvera. The mode of goodness is better than, well, I didn't mention the other two modes, did I? But the mode of goodness, I mentioned a bit about that, is better than the modes of second mode, coming down a step, the mode of passion. And the third mode, the lowest at the bottom, not very nice, really not very nice at all, is the mode of ignorance. But one who takes directly to Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all three modes of material nature, to all, even to goodness, on a higher level, even than goodness, being peaceful and honest and nice and friendly and not aggressive. Yeah. So although there's a process of gradual elevation, if one, by the association of pure devotees, takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. And that is recommended in this chapter. To achieve success in this way, one must first find the proper spiritual master and receive training under his direction. Then one can achieve faith in the Supreme. When that faith matures in course of time, it is called love of God. This love is the ultimate goal of the living entities. One should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. This is the message of the 17th chapter, Prabhupada says. Right, so as I mentioned, the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is just focused on the modes. Let me just mention another bit of background information that's quite important, is that Bhagavad Gita, there's 18 chapters, but the 18 chapters are divided into 3 sections of 6 chapters each. The first 6 chapters, the first section, there Krishna focuses on different forms of yoga. For example, there's 2 chapters, 3 and 5, about karma yoga. And then the 6th chapter is focusing on what they call dhyana yoga. And other forms of yoga are also mentioned through those, here and there, in those first 6 chapters. But then bhakti yoga, or Krishna consciousness, is presented right at the end of that section, right at the end of the 6th chapter, the last chapter in the first section. Krishna presents the topmost yoga system, bhakti yoga or devotional yoga, which is Krishna consciousness. Then from chapter 7 to chapter 12, that's the second 6 chapters, they're focusing on Krishna consciousness, on that topmost yoga, bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, which is the essence of the message of Bhagavad Gita, actually. And then the third section of 6 chapters, 13 to 18, is really, it's like, I mean, it's interesting. Secondary knowledge, which just helps us understand certain elements which are there a little bit in the background when it comes to Krishna consciousness or devotional service. So now we're getting towards the end of that third section, the secondary type of knowledge about different things which are related to Krishna consciousness. So they're not unimportant, but they're not as important as the main message, which is Krishna consciousness or bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, which is focused on in the second section. So really the main part of Bhagavad Gita is the middle. Generally in books, the main part is at the end. Everything builds up to the end, the conclusion. And there are some verses at the end of the last chapter which are sort of summarizing the whole thing to some degree, but actually the main part is those middle 6 sections, 6 chapters. Right, so here we go. Now, devotees, listen to this. We're doing an overview of the entire chapter. There's 28 verses. It's quite a bit of information. But we have divided those 28 verses, we have divided them into a number of, you could say, subsections. In fact, 6. Let me just tell you what they are. First section or subsection is about how the modes of nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, how they determine what your activities will be, what activities you'll be attracted towards, what sort of faith you'll have, what sort of worship you'll be attracted to. Yeah, so that's the first section. That's from verse 1 to verse 7. Any students here who are writing things down a little bit? Because this is educational. This is not just entertainment, transcendental entertainment, which we often get. Yeah, so verse 1 to verse 7 is it's sort of like an introduction explaining how the type of, whichever mode you're in or mainly influenced by, goodness, passion, or ignorance, how that will determine what sort of activities you'll do and what you will have faith in, what sort of worship you'll be attracted to and therefore you will do. Then the second section is verse 8 to verse 10. Here's an interesting one. Foods in the modes, foods in goodness, foods in passion, foods in ignorance. Oh, and this is to help us think about us. Am I one of these ones who doesn't like so much chili? Or am I one of these ones who needs a handful of chilies to crunch on. You know? See, that's not goodness. That's more like passion. Or, stale foods. Ugh, and other. They're in ignorance. So, okay, we're going to talk about that. Then from the third section, verse 11 to 13, sacrifices, different types of sacrifices in the modes, and how people who have these different natures will be attracted to this sort of sacrifice, but not some other type of sacrifice. Let's get there and have a look. And then the fourth section, verse 14 to verse 19, is discussing what types of austerities or penances a person may be attracted to, and the characteristics of those austerities or penances in terms of the modes. It's very interesting when you see yourself in some of these things. You see, Bhagavad Gita is talking about you. If you can recognize it, oh yeah, I like lots of chilies. I mean, I like some chilies too, but anyway. So then the fifth section is what sort of charity you may be attracted to giving, not receiving, but giving. And then the last section is verse 23 to verse 28. And it's like a conclusion in a particular context, particularly in the context of the mantra Om Tat Sat, which you may have heard of, or you may not have heard of. It's a very famous scriptural mantra. So here we go. Fasten your seatbelts, because this is about you. It really is. And if you're honest enough or perceptive enough, you'll see yourself. You'll definitely see yourself in the pages of Bhagavad Gita. Right, so, first section, verse 1 to verse 7. And of course, we got to move along a bit. So first of all, first verse, Arjuna asks Krishna that what is the situation of people who follow scripture and worship, but according to their own feelings, not necessarily according to what is true or what is the highest knowledge or what is lower knowledge, but their own ideas. And he asks Krishna, are they in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Because he already knows about these things, goodness, passion, and ignorance, because they were discussed in detail in chapter 14. So, okay. Anyway, that's the first verse. Let's move on. Verses 2 and 3 we put together. Lord Krishna says, listen to this. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: goodness, passion, or ignorance. Now, hear about this. So here we go. So he speaks to Arjuna, O son of Bharat. That's sort of a name of Arjuna. According to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he or she has acquired. Right, that's verses 2 and 3. So, Prabhupada makes the point. Prabhupada makes the point. Where am I? Prabhupada makes the point that in the purport of verse 2, those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness give up following these rules and regulations, are governed by the modes, and they follow whatever they feel like following. So according to their previous activities in goodness, passion, or ignorance, they acquire a nature of that sort. Yes. Right. So then, let's just see. Prabhupada makes a really interesting point in the purport of verse 4. Those of you who have Prabhupada's books on your telephone, and I can tell you, devotees, if you want Prabhupada's books, all of them, and as many of his lectures as were recorded when he was giving them, you can get this all free on the internet. You can just download it to your telephone. And I would show you, but I haven't got my telephone here. I've got them on my telephone, and I've got them on my computer. And, there you go. You can just have access to these things. So let's have a look. Listen to this. Krishna now is beginning to give his first definition. He says, men. It's a generic term. It means just human beings. But let's say men and women in the mode of goodness, worship the demigods. These are people on the material level. They're not really devotees of Krishna, but they're on the material level. So they're prone to worship demigods. Like, what was yesterday? Tell me what was yesterday? Ganesh Chaturthi. Yes, Ganesh Chaturthi. Did you know that? Every good Hindu knows that, believe me. Yeah. And Ganesh, he's nice. He removes obstacles. You all know that, don't you? You must do, you should do. But one thing I think you may not know, how he removes obstacles, how he is able to do that. Do you know how he is able? Because he is a devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, Ganesh. I mean, people who know Ganesh more deeply, they understand this very clearly. Others who just see him as an independent God, they may not know this, but he's able to remove obstacles because he's a great devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, who is a form of Krishna. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. And don't mind me saying it if you're into it, but things like snakes. I remember years ago, there was a snake hole near Higginson Highway, and we would drive up there, every day pretty much, and we'd see there's this snake hole, and people would come sometimes and offer milk to the snake. Now there's a whole temple there. They built a whole temple there to the snake. But what's a snake, I mean, unless it's a divine snake like Anantashesh that Lord Vishnu reclines on, snakes generally have a bad reputation, right? You got to watch out if you meet a snake. Gee whiz. I've met a few snakes. some close calls. Okay, so now interesting, listen to this. From the purport, those of you who are looking at your Bhagavad Gita online or whatever, towards the end of the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, those in goodness worship a particular demigod for a particular purpose, like school children. At least in India, they often worship Saraswati, goddess of learning. Yeah. So that's considered a better type, a good type of worship. Right. Similarly, now listen to this, fasten your seatbelts. Those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. Prabhupada says, we recall that during the Second World War, a man in Calcutta worshipped Hitler. Don't laugh. It's actually true. And not just one, but this one became famous. He had a picture of Hitler on his altar. Seriously. Because, why would he do that? Because thanks to that war, he had amassed a large amount of wealth by dealing in the black market. And in England, when I was living in England and dealing with the Gujarati people there, the Hindu people, sort of 90% Gujarati or 95%, quite a few on their altars. You know who they had? Queen Elizabeth. I'm completely serious. Because I used to go and visit these people every day. And quite a number, I'd say at least 10%, would have a picture of Queen Elizabeth on their altars. Because a lot of them came from Kenya and Uganda, and they got kicked out by the locals, in those places. But Queen Elizabeth took them in. They all went to England. I mean, a few million of them, actually, and settled in England and got British passports. So, Queen Elizabeth, Ki Jai. Unfortunately, she passed away. So, it's also a form of worship in passion, worshipping an ordinary person. Yeah. Maybe some of them have changed over now to worshipping who? King Charles. Maybe. So then, Prabhupada says, listen to this. Sometimes people worship at the tomb. Sometimes people in ignorance worship at the tomb of some dead man. Sexual service is also considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Similarly, in remote villages in India, there are worshippers of ghosts. We have seen that in India, the lower class people sometimes go to the forest, and if they know that a ghost lives in a particular tree, they worship that tree and offer sacrifices. So these different kinds of worship are not actually God worship. Okay, so there you go. How's that? Yeah, okay. So we're going through to verse 7 at this point. And now, if we look at, verses 5 and 6, they've been put together in the book. And let me just read the translations. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in Scripture, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, and who torture their own bodies as well as the super soul within, are to be known as demons. Now you get that. You don't see it so much here, but you get it. Like in India, there's a festival every, 12 years or so, called Kumbh Mela. And everybody who is anybody in religion in India is there, including, like people who live naked in the Himalayas, in places where it's snowbound 12 months of a year, naked. I don't know if any of you have been in snow. We don't get a lot in Durban. I don't think we ever had any. But when it only starts snowing when it's very close to zero. I don't think it's ever been zero in Durban. But I used to go to Russia, and sometimes we would get in Russia, the coldest I was in was -46. And let me tell you, it is cold. You can wrap yourself up as much as you like, but because you have to breathe, you can't stop breathing. You're breathing in the cold air. It goes into your lungs. If you stay out for a while, you die because your lungs just stop functioning. It's too cold. Yeah. So torturing the body at the Kumbh Mela. I've got a book about the Kumbh Mela. It has some photos. Someone who wants to take a vow of silence, but make sure they stick to it, they may put a padlock on their tongue. How's that? Yeah. People who want to stay standing up, they carry like a swing with them, and at night they hang it from a branch and just lean over the swing and sleep, so they don't sit down or lie down. I mean, it's extreme. It's extremely extreme, actually, what some of these people do. How about someone clenches his fist and keeps it like that for the rest of his life? Means they don't cut their fingernails. You know what the fingernails do? They grow through your hand and they come out the other side. But they do that deliberately as an austerity. But they're torturing the body. Can you imagine what it feels like? Sure. Or they take a vow to hold one of their hands up for the rest of their life. And you know what happens when you hold your arm up? The blood circulation in your arm sort of stops or becomes restricted. Your arm becomes withered. It becomes like skinny, just skin and bone, but they keep holding their arm up. These are austerities, but they're not recommended in Scripture. So therefore they're considered in ignorance, because you're just damaging the body. Just damaging the body. Yeah. You know Jai Satchidananda Prabhu? Many of you know him. He took a vow on the anniversary of Prabhupada's birth. He would have a feast in some nice devotee family's house every day for the year. That was his vow. And he did it. And you know what happens if you do that? You put on a lot of weight. So, okay. Yeah, torturing the body. Torturing the body. this body does not belong to us. If it did, we couldn't lose it. There would be no death. But this body is on loan to us, and when the time of death comes, it is taken back, repossessed. I don't know if you ever had anything repossessed from you. The bailiffs walked in and just took your car away, or your furniture or something. I've seen it happen. Yeah, because it's not yours, because you didn't pay it. It's not yours. So they take it away. So these bodies are not actually ours. They're on loan. And they'll be taken back by the actual owner, who is God, who is Krishna. They'll be taken back when the time comes. Yes, so there we go. Let's get into some detail here. So then Krishna, verse 7, even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. So as I mentioned, that was verse 7. From verse 8 to 10, 8, 9, and 10, there is descriptions. 8 is about food and goodness. 9 is about food and passion. 10 is about food in ignorance. Let's see. Devotees and friends. And maybe you'll see yourself in terms of the types of foods you like. So, where are we? What have I done? Yeah, so verse 8 first. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart, like milk, and things sort of derived from milk. They're generally considered in the mode of goodness. So now, here we go. Foods in the mode of passion. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, too salty, too hot, too pungent, too dry, and too burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease, and ulcers, stomach ulcers. If you're too much of a chili fan, then you'll get ulcers. I mean, it's very likely. But notice he says too bitter. In other words, something which is somewhat bitter, like Corella, like meti herbs, watercress even. These are somewhat bitter, but if they're used in, a balanced way, they're not too bitter. Yeah. Or too sour. Yeah. Too sour. Or too hot, pungent. There are some chilies you don't get in South Africa. Well, you can get them. They're so hot. They're so hot. You take like a teaspoon of the powder, and you'll practically die. I mean, it'll take you at least an hour or two to recover from the experience. They're so incredibly, violently hot, devastating. There's a type of chili, it's called, I think it's the Carolina or California Reaper. It's said to be the hottest chili in existence. And it makes, your typical green chilies you get in the market like, just like their ordinary green chilies, green peppers, if you know what I mean. They're just so incredibly hot. They have competitions. Who can eat the most of these super, super chilies? You wouldn't believe it. Yeah. And then they had videos. I watched a video of one such competition, and afterwards they all went out the back and vomited. Oh yeah, because it was just too much for the system. And it took hours for them to kind of physically settle down. Okay. So verse 10, foods prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. Food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid. And food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness, means the mode of ignorance. Don't mind me mentioning, we are not white South Africans here. How about, what do they call it? The meat, that they dry out? Biltong. See, I don't even know the name. Isn't that good? That's good. Biltong. It's in ignorance. It's just low, really low. And people who are attracted to it means they have, with respect, low natures. Yeah. So, there you go. And again, meat is considered in ignorance. It's in ignorance, yeah. Because, generally any meat that a person eats, it's been sitting in the butcher's shop for a few days. Anyway, if you're a meat eater, I don't want to disturb you, but I'd suggest you consider stopping. Okay, so now we go on to the next section, starting with verse 11. Sacrifices. The sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness. I know a lot of people, I know some people personally who carry kavadi because they want usually some money or something along those lines. So, but now we're talking about sacrifice done with no desire for reward as a matter of duty. Let's go on. Verse 12. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit means money, health, family situations and whatnot, or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. If you want to show off to people that you're doing some sacrifice, that means it's in the mode of passion, and it means you are in the mode of passion, at least to some degree, because normally people have sort of mixtures of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now this is interesting. This is about ignorance. Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of Scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns, and without remunerations to the priests, and without faith, is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Yeah. In other words, if you do a program at home of some religious nature, including in Krishna consciousness, but you do not donate something to those who conducted the program, it's not good. Not good at all. It should be done. It needs to be done. If not, it's basically means your whole event is at least tinged with ignorance. And then, what are we looking at now? Austerity and penance. Austerity or penance. Verse 14 to verse 19. Now, interesting, Krishna now talks about 3 types of austerities. Austerities of the body, austerities of speech, austerities of the mind, but according to the modes. You get it? Yeah. There are 3 types of austerities, which can be either in goodness, passion, or ignorance. So, okay. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmins, the spiritual master, superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. That's austerity of the body. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words which are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literatures. 16. And this is now austerities of the mind, satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. Then he starts going into them now in terms of the modes. So this threefold austerity, you put them together, body, speech, mind. Austerities of body, speech, mind together. So this threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by people not expecting material benefits, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness, means activities of the sort of the body, speech, and mind. When they're done for these purposes, then they're in goodness. Verse 18, penance or austerity performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent. So if you're trying to do physical austerity, austerity of speech, austerity of the mind, but you're in passion, you won't be able to do it on an ongoing basis. Just for a while, then your mind, your nature will force you to stop. And 19, penance performed out of foolishness, with self-torture, or to destroy or injure others, is said to be in the mode of passion. Yeah. Foolishness. Okay, and then charity, verse 20 to 22. Charity, given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Don't mind me saying this, but in India you get people like this. They don't only give charity, but one of the main things they do is they give charity. And other things, religious things. But the main focus is charity. But they only give it on certain days. And they only give it to certain people. And I've had people in India approach me, would you believe, to give some charity means not a lot, like 10 rupees, but they will not let me go until I take it. They'll not let me go. They'll just sort of corner me and insist I have to accept it. Yeah. Anyway, India's an interesting place. Yeah. But it's more in passion. It's more in passion because they know if I give on a certain day according to the lunar calendar, if I give on a certain day to a certain type of person, and if I give a certain type of thing, I will get. You know, if you give charity, like money, to a person who's in ignorance, like particularly, say, a person who's an alcoholic in the street, and they want money for, whatever. Prabhanu Prabhu, excuse me. Can I carry on for another 5 minutes? Shouldn't be longer than that. Yeah. So, what was I saying now? Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki Jai. What was I saying? Money. Yeah, give money. If you give money on the street, you get these people, homeless people. You've seen them. And, some of them, particularly the men, but sometimes women, they just sit around all day drinking methylated spirits because it's cheaper than, the mainstay, etc. Yeah, but now they come and ask you for money. It's not unusual. If you give them money and they use it for buying more methylated spirits or whatever of that nature, you will at least share the bad karma. And of course, someone who drinks, takes that sort of stuff, that's bad karma. That is just terrible karma. But if you sponsor it, then you have pretty significant proportion of the bad karma coming your way. That's why we don't give such people money. We may give them an apple or, something, a banana, something like that. But if they say, no, I want money, then they want to buy liquor with it or methylated spirits. Then once you've dealt with these people enough, then that's what they're after. If they refuse food. Right. So charity. Oh yeah. But then if you give to a good cause, of course it depends what they use the money for and how much of it they use for the good cause and how much of it they just, the employees get, for whatever they use their money for. But you will generally get back the amount you have given. Generally. But if you give to a qualified Brahmin like, see Dan Gatti on the altar offering arati? He is basically a qualified Brahmin. Or Prabhanu Prabhu, qualified Brahmin. If you give to people like that, you get 10 times back in the future. And that's what these people, I mentioned this fellow who was insisting I must take some money. I just had to take some money. Because he was looking at it as an investment, not really as charity. But if you give to a great pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, you get an unlimited amount back. Yeah. This is sort of like the science of charity. It's not so simple. Yes, okay. So, charity given out of duty without expectation of return at the proper time and place and to a worthy person is charity and goodness. 21. Charity performed with the expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruit of results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion. And then, 22, charity performed at an impure place, at an impure time, to unworthy persons, or without proper attention and respect, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So that's what Krishna says about these subjects in the modes. If you want to learn more of what he says in other subjects, other parts of our lives, go and read chapter 14, and the whole chapter is just full of determination in the mode of goodness, determination and passion and ignorance, and various other things, quite like several things in the modes. Have a look. Now, the last section is the last, 6 verses. And, it's Krishna. Well, there's a principle behind what he's saying. His conclusion is, when you do these things, charity, eat, austerity, worship, whatever, then you should do them in goodness, as described, in goodness, but you should do them with the accompaniment of mantra. You should do these things, but to elevate them to the spiritual level, which is beyond just being in goodness, then you should do them to the accompaniment of mantra. Of course, there are many mantras. He mentions here Om Tat Sat is a famous mantra. Yeah, Om. Every good Hindu and so many others, they're familiar with this term Om, right? Om. In fact, we just chanted it a little while ago. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And they also say Om Namo Shivaya and Om, all sorts of Om, this one and that. Right. So Om, you know what Om is? Om is called, in Shastra, in scripture, Om is a Bij mantra. Bij means seed. And even if you know Hindi, in modern day Hindi, the word for seed, meaning if you want to plant some flowers or something, you go to the bead shop. Yeah. Because today in Hindi, the word for seed is bij. So yeah, Om and various others, Kleem, Khreem, these are bij mantras. And they are chanted before a mantra to help you enter the mantra. Like this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The mantra is Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you know a little bit about Sanskrit at least, then Namo is like Namaste. In Sanskrit, Namaha. Namaha. The aha, when the Namaha meets Bhagavate, the ba of Bhagavate, the aha at the end of Namaha becomes an O. So, Namo Bhagavate. I offer my respects, like namaskars. I offer my respects to Bhagavate, to the Lord, to the Supreme Lord, whose name is Vasudev. Vasudev Aya. The ending Aya in Sanskrit means two. Yeah. So the mantra, the actual mantra, is Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's a statement. It's a very simple statement. I offer my respects to the Supreme Lord, Vasudev. Vasudev being a name of Krishna, means he's the son of Vasudev with a short A. Vasudev's son is Vasudev with a long A. Yeah, so actually the mantra is complete as Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's complete. But when you add Om, it's a seed. It's like a stepping stone to help you enter the mantra. I hope you're following what I'm saying. I don't want to confuse anyone. Otherwise, Om doesn't exactly really mean a whole lot. It's sort of just instrumental for helping us enter the mantras. And particularly the mantras from the four Vedas, Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, they're chanted with Om before. Whereas the mantras from the Puranas, they don't bother using Om. That you just chant the mantra. Yeah. So anyway, Om Tat Sat. Om, there are these verses here, which let's just read through them quickly, try to. This is now verse 23, from the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmins while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during the sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Then he explains, therefore, transcendentalists undertake performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance, who are undertaking such activities. In accordance with Scripture, they begin always with Om to attain the Supreme, because it'll help them to make that approach. And Prabhupada quotes Rig Veda, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pasyanti Yat Surayaha, famous Rig Veda mantra. Or, the famous Gayatri mantra, Om Bhurbhuva Swatat Savita. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. The Om is not part of the statement. The statement is complete without the Om. So therefore, traditionally, what he's saying is traditionally they say Om before they do their sacrifices and things. Then, without desiring fruit of results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement. So Om is the step in. Tat means that. That's what the word Tat means, that. So that whatever it is, whatever activity we're going to do, spiritual activity, we're dedicating it to the Lord. And then we're almost there. Are you okay? Are you still alive? Are you still awake? Okay. We're almost there. 26 and 27. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word Sat. Sat means eternality or existence, like ultimate absolute existence, ultimately infers God. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the supreme person, O son of Prita. And here we go, last one. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the supreme, O son of Prita, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless, both in this life and the next. So it's not that we all need to now start chanting Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. We'll have a kirtan. Om Tat Sat. I mean, when our devotees, years ago, like 50 years ago, came to understand the principle here, they started doing offerings, like quick offerings. Sometimes you're out on the street distributing books, and you want to have a little fruit for lunch, but you're really busy. So they'd get some fruit, and you know what they do? They say, Om Tat Sat, thanks a lot. I'm not kidding. I'm just saying that they used to do that. But when Prabhupada found out that they were doing that, he said, no, don't do like that. You're cheapening it. You should offer the food properly to the Supreme. But the point here is more principle. Om Tat Sat is indicating the Supreme, the process of approaching the Supreme, and like that, the result of approaching the Supreme. So what should be done in practical terms is that we should learn what mantras are suitable or proper in what circumstances, and particularly the most sort of proper mantra, or at least universally proper mantra, is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because it's Maha Mantra. It's Maha Mantra. You know, Swami Shivananda from the Divine Life, he used to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It was his main mantra. If you know a bit about Divine Life, you'd know about that. He had his room where only he went, and he would chant there. He sort of turned the mantra around the other way, Hari Rama first, but it doesn't really matter. In fact, it just doesn't matter at all. And he would chant in front of his deity of Krishna. Yeah. So, yes, even offering of food, if you don't know sort of the technical mantras, which are pretty simple actually, they're not that technical, but if you just don't know them, just chant Hare Krishna and you can offer your food and the Lord will accept it. Yeah. And giving in charity, you can just chant Hare Krishna, give some charity, and it's complete because it's Maha Mantra, the great mantra. So there you go, devotees and friends. Thank you for being very patient. I sort of extended it when I saw how patient you were being. I thought, these people can take anything. Yeah. But now, well, I don't think we got time for questions, do we? Not really. It's okay. But let me just remind you about the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're having a special campaign to distribute as many sets of Srimad Bhagavatam as possible by the, 18th of this month. So please take a set. It's the supreme Vedic literature, the emperor of all Vedic evidences is Srimad Bhagavatam. And I don't know how much they normally cost, but today you can get one for just 3,400 rands. And you can also sponsor a set If you know someone who would, they like these things and they would like to have a set, but maybe they can't afford it or something, you can sponsor a set and they can be given to your friend. And if you take a set today, we will sign it and give you a garland. How's that? I don't have anything else to give, I'm afraid. But they're nice garlands. Oh, look. Yeah. There's one set on the altar. Wow. Right at the lotus feet of the deities. Means sort of doubly sanctified. So the first one to take a set today, Prabhanu Prabhu will arrange, you get that set. How's that? Shoo. Yeah. Maybe I should take it myself. But I've got a set. Okay. What? Someone should take it now. Sorry? You want to take it? Okay. Well done. And you want a set? What did you put your hand up for? You want it? She already took it. Well, we'll arrange something. Yeah, we'll put another set on the altar if you want that. And anyone else want a set? I know it's short notice, but you can pay over 3 months or 6 months. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Oh, and I owe you each a garland. Okay.
So Japamala Prabhu, he lost his eyesight a few years ago, and he's taking a set, so there's no limitations what everybody else can do, actually.
Okay. We should give him a set of the recitation. Oh, he's got. Okay. Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Dear devotees, put your hands together for Maharaj. And I want to thank Maharaj for a wonderful lecture today. It was very enlightening. And I want to encourage you all to actually, Maharaj gives very nice classes, the Bhakti Sastri. I actually did it with Maharaj. So this is nothing. You actually get more in-depth knowledge. Just try and give it a chance. Book for it. I don't know when Maharaj is going to do it again.
Bhakti Shastri?
Yes, Maharaj.
Starting, I think it's January.
There you go.
Deva knows exactly.
Okay, so I encourage all of you all to actually register for those programs. It's very wonderful, and Maharaj does it very in-depth. Okay, just a few announcements. Maharaj spoke about the books. Thank you, devotees, for actually sponsoring these books or taking part of it. There you go. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, do you want to come forward for your garland? Hare Krishna. Okay, Jay. Okay, lunch will be served downstairs. Also, I'd like to remind you all that on Wednesday is Radha Ashtami. We're having a wonderful program here, starting at 6, where supper will be served first. We're going to have cake offerings. Whoever's sponsoring a cake, please let it be in between 4 to 6. And if you cannot bake or cannot, for whatever reason, bake a cake for Radha Ashtami, you can actually see Achyuta Priya or myself at Govinda's, and you can order a cake for 180 rands. and you can pick it up and you can bring it to the temple. All right, that's the other alternative. Also, just take note that during the month of Kartik, we are only having 2 take care offerings per day. So if you need to book, please see Achyuta Priya downstairs. All right, thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So we should have some kirtan, right? Okay. Yes, so we can all stand up, devotees, face the altar, and we'll have kirtan for a little while.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavani Paschachare Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Bhakta-veda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Bhakta-veda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Bhakta-veda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Baladeva Jai Subhadra Jai Baladeva Jai Subhadra Nijai Gauranga Nijai Gauranga Nijai Gauranga Nijai Gauranga Nijai Gauranga Gaurahari Nijai Gauranga Gaurahari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Ugra Virama Vishnu Jwalatam Sarvatomokam Narashiva Vishalabhadram Nityormitam Labhavyaham Namaste Narasingaya Namaste Narasingaya Padito Nishingo. Nishingo, Padito Nishingo. Yato yato yamida to nishingo. Yato yato yamida to nishingo. Aye nishingo, vida de nishingo. Nishingo, vida de nishingo. Nara shinga badim sadana prabhane. Nara shinga badim sadana prabhane. Sabagana Kamala Varina Yama Duta Singa Kanita Hiranya Gasimu Tado Ringa Vishavarina Harahari Lupa Vedagari Sahari Sajagari Sahari Vedagari Sahari Vishavarina Vishavarina Narahari Lupa Jagari Sahari Sajagari Sahari Jagari Sahari Jaya Narsingare, 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 Jaya Narsingare. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya, 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 Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya, Jaya, Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Gora Haribo, 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 Jai Gora Haribo.
Jai Vishnupad Paramahans Paravajak Charis Tadasisamad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrindaki, Namacharya Shila Haridas Takwaki, Prem Segahos Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrindaki, Shri Radha Krishna Govanath Shamkund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki, Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to their Sama devotees, all glories to their Sama devotees, all glories to their Sama devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna devotees, thank you very much. So Prasadam is being served downstairs, like Mataji said. And please remember that for the Bhadra Purnima program, we still have more sets of Bhagavad